Okay. Can anyone hear me now? Yes. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for your patience. I'll go ahead and start again here. Welcome everyone to our webinar this October to show you Hire2Retire this month. Thank you for coming, and it'll be about 45 minutes. We'll go around, do some brief introductions, do a couple slides to give you some background, and then jump into a brief demo. Feel free to let us know if you have questions at any time. You can always reach out to us with our contact information, and I'll go ahead and get started with introductions. My name is Alexis. I'm an account executive here at RoboMQ.
And I'm Ram Gupta. I'm head of products at RoboMQ.
And I'm Dave Greenstein. I'm also an account executive here at RoboMQ.
David, we can't hear you.
Oh.
Okay, we can now.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, sorry about that. And I'm introducing myself, Dave Greenstein. I'm also account executive here at RoboMQ.
Wonderful. So what I'll do is I'll take the first part of the presentation, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the product, and then I'm going to hand it off to Alexis to show the real demo. So this is going to be the agenda for the webinar. We already had the introduction. I'm going to get into the problem statement or the pain that we solve with our product. Then we're going to get into the core capabilities of the product, the solution approach, which also involve at a very high level the capabilities and how they are implemented, getting into a little bit of technicalities and more from a data flow interaction, how things work together. We're not going to get into the weeds of it. And then I'll hand it off to Alexis, and she's going to take around 25 minutes or so to show you the demo. This is a condensed version of the comprehensive demo that we do. When you're going to engage with us, we will do a full comprehensive demo. But this demo is very much like the HR or executive demo, which we do for the executive, showing the core capabilities of the product and not getting into a lot of weeds. And then we'll end the call with Q&A, where you guys can raise your hand and ask the question. You can also type it in the chat if you want to, and we'll try to answer those questions. So getting into the problem statement. Now, what is the problem we solve? Essentially, what you see today, right? When you hire somebody, terminate somebody, change of role, profile, anything happen on the HR system, the person needs an identity created in case of onboarding. So they need an account, they need an email address, they need the privileges, they need the access to certain systems, they need the laptop, they need the workspace. All of these activities are typically either manual or semi-automated. When I say manual or semi-automated means HR will let you know by opening a ticket, by email, by an Excel tracker saying that these people are going to be hired, these people are leaving, and then IT will process them, make the changes. Some sysadmin is going to do the work and make it happen. It's spending a lot of time and also doing a very repetitive work. Some places you might see some kind of automation where they're using some sync tool or a combination of sync tool and PowerShell scripts. Now, so that's the problem, right? So what is the challenges because of this? Often there's a poor first day at work experience. So when you walk in, you are not fully set up. You don't have everything ready. You don't have the access. Maybe you don't have the laptop fully in. You don't have the email address, or nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows you on the gap. Who do you report to? A lot of these initial setups are not in place. And they say that employees who have a good first day experience tend to stay longer at the workplace because it's just like the first impression that you get. The second thing is that high cost of skills sysadmin, the people who create the identity, people who create the account, people who give the access. It's not a difficult job, but it is done by somebody who has privileged access and somebody who's technical, somebody who has the skills, and he or she is doing the repetitive job, a thankless job, which maybe he or she can do something else. So it's not a cost replacement or cost saving. I would say it's more of a cost avoidance of that kind of a work. The third problem is delay in timely removal of access, which is more critical in today's world of cybersecurity and risk and reputation risk that we are exposed to if employees leave, terminated employees leave with access, or even if we have employees who do not have access based on need to know basis. Like some sysadmin has access of much more access to accounting system or ERP where they should not have. That's a risk, right? So the access should be managed on a role-based basis. So these are the problems that we solve, and then I'm going to get into how do we solve it. So I'll go to the presentation mode so that you have a better experience here. So first is superior day at work experience. This is what we provide from our product. The second is we sync employee profiles from HR to AD, the basic core sync. But whenever HR changes things, they are reflected in the IT systems or the identity system. Role-based access control and access provisioning, we do support RBAC, we support ABAC. Essentially, you get the privileges based on your role, which is defined in the HR system, and based on that role or your attribute, you get access to third-party systems. Resource provisioning and service desk integration, this involves getting your laptop, getting your workspace. If there are approvals needed, if certain tasks or workflow have to be executed on the service desk, like ServiceNow, Freshservice, ConnectWise, Manage Engine Service Desk, any of these, we support 8 or so of these platforms. We do integration with it so that as you come in, as you leave, as your profile changes, you get the right resources and right access that you need to perform your job. And then we help you avoid security risk by making sure terminated employees don't have access, making sure your access is need-to-know basis, as well as we provide the compliance and audit trail, which says you have a process to manage employee lifecycle, and then you have evidence to prove it. So that is what our product Hire2Retire does. We have customers across industry, very horizontal product. Most of our customer concentration is in the mid-market and in the industries which have high growth, high turnover, as well as where there's lack of IT resources, because this automation does have a lot of cost avoidance and cost saving. We are very proud of what customers say about us. We have a great product, and more than that, our customer success team, the kind of support we provide, the kind of customer intimacy we have, we react to customers very fast, help them onboard, help them meet their need. As well, we have a customer-driven product roadmap. We take feedback from customer. We meet customers on a regular basis, quarterly or 6 months, get their input, get their feedback, and keep adding to the product. And we are very thankful to our customers. It is because of our customers that we have added so much features that we're going to see in the product. This is a typical case study of healthcare industry, another industry where we have high concentration of customers. And when we take care of the employee lifecycle management, take care of the account provisioning, take care of the roles and access provisioning, we let the companies focus on their core business. And these are also the industry where, like, I don't know if you heard of it, there's a concept of traveling nurses. I did not know it. I mean, the healthcare industry has a lot of change or movement of people than I initially thought. So that's one thing. We take care of it. And also the data of the customer is very sensitive, HIPAA control. So making sure people have role-based access is critical to that industry. And we have a lot of customers in there. And as you have already seen, we have great reviews in G2. This is how the business process state looks before and after Hire2Retire. So before the Hire2Retire, if you look on the left-hand side, typically HR will notify the IT. Maybe create a ticket, maybe send an email, maybe send an Excel tracker. It goes into a task queue, whether on the ITSM system or otherwise. And then some sysadmin is going to find time in his or her busy day and then perform the operation, create the account, give the access, give the privileges, have an email account set and everything, send an email to the manager and HR and close the ticket. This is the time that is saved when we go to the full automation, which with Hire2Retire. Here we get the information from HR system, employees basic PII. I'm just highlighting basic PII. We don't need a lot of sensitive information, just the basic name, first name, last name, preferred name, then job identifier so that we know what is your role in the company, what is your need to know basis. That's really the job identifier. And then based on it, we'll create an account, AD account or Google Workspace account. We support Google Workspace, we support Microsoft AD. We all support Entra ID and we support the hybrid. So we support all of these combinations. We're going to create an account. We're going to put you into the right groups. We'll put you into the OU. We'll assign you resources by creating the service desk ticket. We have the communication hub capability. So we'll do everything that a typical sysadmin or IT does in onboarding employees, terminating employees, as well when employees change department, role or name. So in case of department and role changes, we will make sure that your GAL, global address list, and your org chart is always correct. So we manage full life cycle from onboarding to the termination. And that is done all in a fully automated fashion. I'm going to get into a little more detail going on to from the last picture on the right-hand side is you get the data from HR system. It could be over API or scheduled and automated extract. Then the yellow box is where we do the magic, or you define the workflow on our no-code platform that Alexis is going to show. And here we'll create the full account, your account, your privileges, your security group, what access you have, everything is done. It is pushed into your identity platform. You see this combination of the identity platform that we have. And then we provide around 150 or so SIM connectors or auto provisioners, which are already on our platform. Very easy to configure because the payload of the employee is already with us. You just say, okay, when somebody gets certain role or meets certain attribute-based access control criteria, give them access to Salesforce or give them access to NetSuite. When they leave, we remove the license. Now, by doing that, one of the big thing is security risk. You save, you reduce the risk of data being lost or reputation risk, or somebody walks out with your data or privileged access. And then there's a license cost saving also, right? When you're talking about the ERP systems, typically they are in $100 something. And if you're looking at Dynamics license or NetSuite license or Salesforce license, so there's a cost saving involved if you can effectively manage the license. So that's access provisioning that we do. And then we also do the last mile resource and asset provisioning, where we lean on the service desk system to which we are natively integrated, and we can take care of it. If there's no native integration available, or if you're using some specialized or a niche service desk system, you can do that integration using the communication hub capability, or basically sending an email over the SMTP gateway of the service desk and doing it. So identity provisioning, access provisioning, resource provisioning, and privileges are also provisioned based on your profile into the identity platform. This is looking at the platform capability more like a functional capability. We fall under the lightweight identity governance and administration space, as Gartner classifies us. And these are the core capabilities around lifecycle management, identity provisioning, access provisioning, resource provisioning, profile-based privilege management, which is RBAC and ABAC. We also support contractor seasonal worker lifecycle management, which is if these contractors are not in the HR system, which is typically a case. And it's also a risk because a lot of time, contractors come for 6 months. Nobody knows, okay, when their 6 months ended and if their privilege was removed. So we'll make sure that as we process them 6 months later, there's a scheduled event which will get fired and the access is removed. Then we have, just like any other enterprise product, we have observability, reporting, event logging, analytics, compliance, audit trail, BI integration. And these are the things which Alexis is going to show as we get into the demo. This is more of a pictorial view of what I already talked about. And then we are very big on dynamic role-based access control and privilege management. So with that, I'll let Alexis take over and show you the real thing and prove whatever I said in this deck really exists.
Thank you, Brahm. I will go ahead and jump right to it. I'm going to share my screen really briefly and show you the product. Okay, and can everyone see my screen? Awesome. So what you're looking at right now is what you would see when you first log into Hire2Retire. All these gray boxes you're looking at are workflows. You can have as many as you like, as many different accounts as you like. Essentially help support segregation of duty as well as the process from promotion to production. We do support a wide number of HR systems. I have ADP here as an example. So I will go ahead and jump to this workflow. When you first go into a workflow, this is what you see. You can think of it as a business overview document or a process document. Essentially, on this overview tab, you'll see all the choices you've made throughout the workflow spit out in plain English. So which attributes you've chosen to send to us, how you're mapping that into Active Directory, the various steps you're choosing to automate at the lifecycle stages, and so on. Additionally, even though we are no-code self-service, we are technically code behind the scenes, so one thing you have the option to use is this version history button here, which if you want to click it, you can always roll back to the last known good state. Jumping to the Identity tab, this is where you're going to make the bulk of your workflow decisions. First step is pretty straightforward. You choose your HR system. As I was mentioning, these are a few of the ones we natively integrate with already, if you see any you recognize here, as well as the data integration method. We have two options, API or file extract, whichever one you prefer. They're the same for us in terms of functionality. And finally, your identity management type. So whether you're hybrid, Entra ID only, Google Directory, we do support all of those choices, as you can see, as well as the connection type, point-to-point VPN or on-premise agent. Jumping to connections, this is essentially where you set up your connection to your HR system and your Active Directory, since we are that middleware software. Whether you're doing API or file extract, you'll put your credentials in here, and then this is also where you set up that connection to Active Directory. Again, this is a pretty brief overview, but if you do want to get into any details, always feel free to ask questions. And jumping into the next step, once you have those connections set up, you would go ahead and do the rest of these workflow steps. So HR data definition is where you choose which attributes you want to send to us. You'll see here, this is essentially a drop-down directly from ADP of all the various attributes, no coding needed on your end here. It'll just show up. And the way you choose which attributes you want to send is directly clicking it. Click it, we'll get that attribute. These ones that you see here are just some common attributes chosen by our customers today. Like Ron was mentioning, it's pretty basic PII, first name, last name, job title, preferred name. If you want to do supervisor ID or manager, then we can help keep your global address list current, that sort of thing. And for those of you that may have employees in different time zones, maybe you have some that work remote, since we do support scheduled events, you can account for that here by selecting multi-time zone, using an attribute such as location, mapping those time zones, and what that will do is, let's say for scheduled termination, someone's leaving their last day at 6 p.m. This feature will make sure that all of your automatic termination steps happen at 6 p.m. in that time zone. Once you have mapped those attributes or chosen them, next thing would be mapping them into Active Directory. So all of those attributes you just chose will show up here, and you can literally drag and drop them to the corresponding attribute for Active Directory. One thing to point out here is, though no coding is required, we do support data transformations modeled off of Excel. So a common use case is seen here. If they have a preferred name, use that. If not, use legal first name, last name. We have all these functions you can use at your leisure for any of these attributes. Now for UPN, we do have a wide variety of options. You might see one that applies to your current company, first name dot last name, first name initial dot last name, and we also have ways to handle duplicates. Again, we have a wide variety of options here, but if you didn't see the one you prefer, we do have a custom rule option as well, so we can adjust to your current processes. Additionally, we know that for some customers, they might have something like multiple domain names. We can handle that sort of situation as well, and the way we do it is through this little icon here. You'll see it throughout all of the attributes. What it is a lookup table. So you select that lookup table, you can choose any attribute you're getting from ADP, put it in here, such as location equals, and go from there. So maybe someone in the US has a different domain than someone in Italy, that sort of thing. So keeping in mind this concept, you can apply this to any of the attributes here, and you'll also see this icon throughout the platform. Jumping to Lifecycle business rules, this is where you choose which steps you want to automate at these various lifecycle processes. So for example, someone's getting hired, we'll create that account for you. What type of password do you want them to have? If it's unique system generated, it will be seeded HMAC, so pretty secure, as well as the password length. Another thing to point out here is we do support pre-boarding, and what that means is, let's say HR gives IT a heads up of an incoming new hire before that start date. You can choose to automatically enable their account in a disabled state for security purposes if you would like, and then have it automatically enable at, let's say, 9 a.m. on that employee's first day. So this can be something that's now automatically done. You can also use this to automatically send tickets to IT, for example, that says, hey, first name, last name is starting on start date. Please get them a laptop. Please get them a desk space. Jumping down to change of role. When someone is maybe changing departments, changing job titles, changing locations, this feature is where you can choose how you want to handle group mapping and memberships accordingly. So we have a few options here, so you can see. Our most popular one by far is the first one, retain all groups not defined in group mapping automation. What this basically means is if someone's changing from the sales department to the marketing department, and you have this option selected, Hire2Retire will take out their sales access, give them the marketing access as determined by the rule sets you've made on Hire2Retire. But if there was any manual access given to them outside of Hire2Retire, we leave it alone upon that change. So it essentially accounts for all the case-by-case situations that tends to happen in companies, and therefore it's our most popular. Jumping down to termination, we have plenty of steps that we automate here. You can put them in a certain OU, purge certain attributes like personal phone number, personal email address if you would no longer like that. And this is where scheduled events, again, comes into play. So for scheduled terminations, let's say someone turned in their 2-week notice and on their last day at 6 p.m., if that's what you choose here, what would happen is Hire2Retire at that time in that person's time zone would go ahead and do all of these termination steps, put them in the proper OU, turn their mailbox into a shared mailbox, share their OneDrive, all of that would be automatic. Of course, we do support immediate termination as well. Not everything is scheduled. And the way that we handle that is, let's say HR, for a termination reason in their HR system, types in something like involuntary. As soon as Hire2Retire sees that, regardless of their last day worked or whether they're still on the payroll, we'll go ahead and automatically do all of those termination steps. These include handling group memberships, of course, removing directly assigned Microsoft licenses, and for many companies, this is also a time where you turn their mailbox into a shared mailbox. If this is conditional for you, maybe you only do it for certain job titles like ones containing manager or C-suite. That can all be determined here if you don't want to do it for every employee. However, you do have the option to do it for everyone, in which case some of the options are sharing it with the manager, removing aliases, and changing the display name to, for example, first name, last name shared is a common case we see. Additionally, you can also have automatic messages that send out based off whether an email coming to that shared mailbox is from within or without the organization. Again, you'll see all these attributes here that you've selected, and you can drag and drop them in these boxes so that, of course, each email is dynamic and according to whatever situation is happening. A couple other things you can do here are mail forwarding, and if you do delete the count after a certain aging period, such as 30 days, that's an option you have as well. Last thing here is long-term leave. So in some cases, maybe you have a case-by-case way how you handle long-term leave, in which case you can always uncheck this box here and we won't handle that life cycle. Maybe for long-term leave, something you do is just disable the user, put them in a certain OU. That can now be an automatic process. So I'll go ahead and jump to OU assignment. The way that we handle this is with rule sets and concept of priority. So what that means is, let's say a new hire is coming in. Hire2Retire sees that. First thing we're going to do is go to the first priority rule set. Does that employee fit into this department and this location? If so, put them in this OU. If none of these apply, we'll go ahead to second priority rule set, same process, down the line until there is a default OU. Yours can be more simple if you want. We have customers that just have one big rule set. If you're in this department, you're in this OU. But essentially, this allows for you to do whatever your current process is on Hire2Retire, whether it's simple or complicated. Now, group memberships, you'll see, looks pretty similar to OU, but the difference here is there's no concept of priority. You can be in multiple security groups, multiple distribution lists, and we support a lot of dynamic groups here. So you can see on the top security groups, distribution lists, Enter ID only distribution lists and security group, Microsoft 365 group, and so forth. All of them have that option where you can use any of the attributes that you've selected from your HR system. We do and/or logic. So if you want to just do one attribute that works, if you want to keep going, that also applies. There's no limit here. And there's also no limit to the number of rule sets you would like. So of course it's dynamic. If an employee goes from HR associate, they get promoted to HR manager. Hire2Retire will see that change and accordingly give them the proper distribution list, security groups, and so forth. One thing to point out here is as this management and creation can sometimes be time consuming, we do have this feature that can help, this little AI feature, which what it does is it can read through your Active Directory, find any patterns in what you're currently doing, and offer them up to you as suggestions. So for example, you might see, or it might tell you that, hey, we noticed 88% of people with the job title product manager are being given access to this distribution list. Would you like to make that a rule on Hire2Retire? And essentially, it helps expedite the process of setting this all up, gives you something to lean on and look through instead of all of it being manual. You'll also recognize outliers that way as well, so it can kind of help you clean up your AD if you would like, while putting this all together. And of course, for every group, you have default lists available. Default distribution lists, default security groups for everyone in the company, that can all be handled here as well. And last thing here is Communication Hub. So what this is essentially email-based custom data-rich templates that can send out automatically at any of these lifecycle changes or stages. So for example, onboarding stage, you want to send someone a welcome to your first day of work email. You can have that in here, choose the lifecycle if you want it to be conditional. Maybe this changes based off department or location, etc. You can send it from your own email. And you can also fill in whatever you would like for subject and body with any of the attributes from your HR system or your Active Directory. You can put in your own email signature here, make it pretty personalized. All of that's up to you. A couple use cases for Communication Hub are direct emails like this to employees, maybe an email to IT alongside any from your current ITSM that you want to let them know, maybe something to email the manager of the password of an incoming new hire, have them acknowledge the company handbook, share DocuSign, share attachments. All of this can now be done on Communication Hub. So I know I'm going through this pretty fast as it's a general overview version. Before jumping to Service Desk, are there any questions? Okay, so what I'll do next is show you the Service Desk tab. These are the current service desks that we natively integrate with. We are consistently adding to this with our release features that we do every 4 to 6 weeks. If there is a certain ITSM you're interested in, feel free to let us know, and we can let you know whether it's on the roadmap, how deep your interest level is there. Essentially, I would say that these ITSMs that we have native integration with, you can send direct tickets. And of course, it's very similar to Communication Hub, but it allows for some more detailed field level mapping here. Now, as I've mentioned, one thing that we're pretty big on is role-based access control to third-party applications. These are a few of those third-party applications that we already natively integrate with. There's a bunch on here, but there also is a bunch that are offered by Microsoft Azure Marketplace. These ones we aren't directly connected to right now, but you do have the option to set it up yourself with these Hire2Retire specific instructions. If you wanted us to do it for you, or maybe you have a custom connector, or you would like one for a third-party application you don't see on either of these options, feel free to let us know. We can build that for you for a one-time fee flat of $3,000, which doesn't cover the whole process, but it's like a token fee. We are working on building our sim library, so we would love to hear any recommendations that you have, or if you just want to see and are interested in what we do have, again, let us know and we can send you that list. And one thing here we mentioned in terms of security risks, being able to see everything that's been done for audit trail purposes, for example. Let's start with this observe page. What it does is you can view all the changes that have been made in an overall version as well as specific. So let's go to an update here. You want to see what happened to Talon's account on this date. You can go ahead, click this icon, and it will show you the exact attributes we're getting, from the HR system, as well as what they are in Active Directory. And one thing to point out here is AD is actually a non-versionable entity, but we will save that previous version so you can see what it used to be, what it is now, and as a result, which security groups have been added, removed, or retained, and same for distribution lists, Microsoft 365 groups, and so on. Now, let's say that you didn't want to go to this page every time to view those changes. You can always schedule a report, maybe to every Monday or Thursday to a certain email. And once you have that set here, then on those dates at that time, you'll get a report of all the changes that have been made in that time frame. Now, all of this rich data you see can also be piped right into your BI or archival, and we have a few different options here for audit trail purposes, AWS 3, MySQL, Azure Blob. So this can help you with things like ISO 27001, SOC 2, proving that you do timely terminations. All of that can now be a pretty easy process as well. Jumping down to run mode, there are two options we have here. So one is autopilot, in which case we treat that HR system as the source of truth. As changes are made in the HR system, the access and so forth will automatically reflect. But we also have supervised mode. So what this means is it'll give IT kind of a chance to review these changes and either approve or deny them before anything actually happens. So if you have this option selected, you'll now have this review tab you can look at. And what it will do is show you those pending events, approved, rejected, so on. And in those cases, you can review them. You'll see it looks very similar to the observe page. The difference, of course, is that these changes haven't happened yet. So you'll see what the previous value is, what it would be, and as a result, which security groups would be added, removed, or retained if you approved this. So that's essentially supervised mode. And last thing here is error notification. Let's say that you would like to get notified in the case there's an error at all. Of course, you can do that here. Though I will say, according with the subscription, you do have proactive monitoring. So we'll be checking on it anyway. And if there is any sort of error, like let's say we didn't get the information from your HR system when we were supposed to, we'll notify you of that as well right away. And a few other things that come with our subscription are 24/7 support. We have a team in the US and India that you can reach out to at any time. You'll also have a customer success manager and account executive you can reach out to at any time as well. Additionally, we do have feature releases every 6 to 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And in those times, we will be giving everyone, all of our customers, every new feature that we're adding. So there's no a la carte pricing. You'll always have the most updated version. And this is, of course, like we've said, a pretty general overview. If you want to get into specific details, of course, reach out to us and let us know. And once that happens, let's say there's any features you haven't seen on here but would really benefit your process, you can always reach out to us. We can consider it, potentially give you an ETA, and then you would see that product on, or that feature on the product at no extra cost to you because we have a customer-driven product roadmap. What this essentially is it allows for a lot of these features you've seen have been directly from customers and they really help us with our product. So we would love if you did come to us with those requests. And again, this is basically an overview of Hire2Retire in a condensed time frame. But thank you so much for listening to this whole thing and feel free to reach out to us with questions. Are there any that you're thinking of right now that you would want to ask at the moment?
Any questions, anybody, or anything you guys want to get have us get into more details?
Okay, well, in that case, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll definitely be sending you a recording of this so you can look through. You'll have our contact information, so feel free to reach out if you want another demo specific to your HR system, your AD setup, and you want to go over your specific challenges, goals, and see if we can directly automate those specific situations of yours. Please feel free to reach out. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to come see a little bit of what Hire2Retire can do for you today. We'll reach out to you with a follow-up email. And again, feel free to reach out to us with any questions.
Thank you very much. And we'll share this
Thank you.
deck which has our contact details, or simply visit us on our website. You will find many ways to reach out to us, and we'll be very happy to talk to you in person and be able to solve your problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks,
one.
Neil.